The thing about Hitler is, aside from the shit he's most known for, like, you gotta understand, preempting description of Nazi standpoints with the fact that they're Nazis usually does a lot of the heavy lifting to making the things that they sound crazy. That's why there's a recurring trope that you've probably seen in your life where somebody will go like, oh, hey, this is this thing. And they read it out and they're like, do you think that Donald Trump said this? Or do you think Adolf Hitler said it? And it's because obviously, like, Donald Trump's a bad guy. But the thing is a lot of the things that they say are pretty fucking reasonable sounding. So actually, like, a lot of conservative, like mid-tier conservatives would probably agree with Hitler on a fuckload of shit. And as a matter of fact, the further we get away from World War II, the more you see it happen. Like, obviously, Nazis are bad. Brave statement, I know. The mass slaughter and depredation of Jewish people and basically any non-white, non-German individuals and the relentless war that they waged, that was bad. The political capital they got for that wasn't just predicated solely on the hate against those individuals. That's the shortcoming that people have when they try to describe, like, where did Nazism coming from? Because there's nothing special about Nazis that does not exist in the hearts of all of you today, right? Like, literally, you can still get there. German people, the same German people that live in Germany right now that now know better are still just the descendants of Nazis. Like, the reasonable, go about, get about kind of individuals that you see put in a different circumstance can create a Nazi. Like, the shit that fucking Donald Trump was saying that's similar to like what fucking Hitler would be saying and blah, 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 blah. Most of their policy prescriptions and their packages are nice sounding shit. The socialist propaganda, so to say, that people talk about, we need better protections for work. I love my workers. I love my workers. A working man, the tax that you pay is too high. There's a lot of people taking money out of the hands of the working man that don't have to say who they are. It's all shit that you agree with because you agree with it when people that you agree with say it, and it sounds almost exactly the same. Like, literally, just, that's why you're like, why is he using the same rhetoric? This isn't even a fucking righty talking point. Isn't this a lefty talking point? That's the hint that you should be taking where you go like, oh, wait, what? Okay, hold on now. Maybe we're not so different, you and I. I don't know if you understand this, Batman, but I just want a hard day's pay for a hard day's work, and I want to play a little golf with my family. Like, I just want people to be able to walk down the street without fear of being stabbed in the kidneys. People coming over the border, they're stealing children. I don't know, what did you hear? They're stealing the children. Like, that shit. That shit's like in his direction, but the articulating safety concerns, the articulating like, I think that the world's not fair, the articulating that why does your tax money go away and then you don't see good things happen? Like, anybody can do that. That's the beginning of the divide. That's how it goes from the precursor state in the direction of something that's not fascism and something that is how you start approaching and answering those questions. It starts there with the same sort of talking points again and again and again and again. I don't think taxes should be so high, or really, like, I think that you should have more money at the end of any given day than you do now, is really what that argument is. How you get to the more money at the end of the day than you have now, end state, victory state, is sort of where politics happens. That's that pesky 5%. Goddamn that pesky 5%. Disagree. Just this 5%. That pesky 5% we disagree on. That pesky 5%. That's operations. That's modality. If you start naming all of the non-psychotic end state after he was enacted, after there were no more fucking like barriers between him and getting shit done, except for the few like paper thin ones, if you start naming random policy prescriptions, people are gonna go like, oh, okay, I fucking get it. I fucking get it. If you have to rephrase them slightly to make them sound less like Germany in the 1930s and more like America in the upcoming 2030s that we're going to be existing through, you're gonna find a lot of crossover. It's not gonna be completely perfect. And yeah, there's hate and shit. And of course, that hate is integral to it. There's hate on every side of the political fucking spectrum, on every fucking side of it. And you can't pretend like it's not there because, yeah, you can observe this guy. He's way worse. He's way fucking crazier than we are. We're not crazy at all. And then fucking the second lefties even lift their thumb off that boiling pot lid for more than a fraction of a second, where do all of a sudden we've got tankies that sound exactly like us, but slightly different, to the point where people on the other side of the aisle can't fucking tell the difference. They're like, what do you mean you're not a tanky? What, I thought that was all of you. Don't you love Chairman Mao? And I'm like, you're like, no, what are you talking about? You think the difference is massive because you understand the 5%. You understand that pesky 5%. You understand it and you can articulate it. But when other people don't, they're like, what do you fucking mean? You know, you have tankies, you have fucking uncommitted Palestine advocates who are literally just engaging in anti-Semitism, open anti-Semitism and open direct genocidal rhetoric against Jews in or outside of Israel. They don't give a fuck where they're located. Like, that shit just starts popping off. It's just a natural weakness in humanity, and trying to pretend that your system is going to preclude its possibility simply through the natural, ideologically more moral fiber of the system than the other system is just ideology. And that is actually going to get you closer to everything blowing up in your face than just actively pursuing these issues with kind of just a curmudgeonly pessimistic belief that things are going to fuck up. The European right wing believe there is a conspiracy of Arabs? What? The European right wing believe there is a conspiracy of Arabs and or gay people infiltrating academia, left-wing political parties, and government institutions. They're the biggest parties right now. Arab infiltration is crazy. You're always going to find new people. You're always going to find new people. Well, yeah, they ultimately did, but it's not something. But it's something that was progressively developed over years and years, not the early arguments that seduced the population into following the evil mustache guy. Yeah, they would have just done the beer hall putsch wouldn't have been a putsch. It would have just been a full-on pogrom if he had been articulating the pogrom right away. If the earliest, hey, I want to be in charge of everything, had just been raw, let's fucking kill Jews tonight, they would have probably just done it. If there's anything Europeans can do, it's throw a fucking pogrom in just overnight. They just do it. Europeans love it. Europeans right now that don't even think, they're like, I'm pretty liberal. Yeah, well, I guarantee you, if the moon was the right color one night, and you heard somebody just say the right thing, you'd be pogroming Jews as your ancestors have done for generations before you. You guys just do it. I would never pogrom a Jew, the Englishman says, sharpening his knife and looking outside at the gypsy family next door. People just want a scapegoat. Yeah. Islamo leftists is fucking based. Islam in like Muslims in America, even though they are pretty actually liberal when you fucking do them, crunch the numbers and shit, are considered hardline conservative by basically almost all Americans that have never considered it for more than like 2 seconds past their first blush prejudices against them. I only follow Chairman Tyler. Yeah. My chair that I can't get out of because my back hurts. Reasonable sounding to who? Reasonable sounding to many people. Yeah, I mean, like, that's it. Like, the country was complicit eventually, but it's because you lost control of the party by giving it way too much power, and then you couldn't stop it. Like, the literal governmental organization of Germany was so fucking fractured and shitty because of the way it was developed anyway. We go back to fucking Hindenburg the second or whatever the fuck, that whole fucking thing. When you move from the former king and then into the president, and then the whole country's actual democratic institutions were so rotten and had such poor safeguards and checks and balances and stuff that a literal minority chunk of the government took the government over. All you have to do is make things nice for people for a little bit. That's what you do. Everyone does it. You'll see it happen. If you get a new fucking person elected office in your area, they make it nice for a little bit. And then when it's time for them to do something else, you'll go, well, they made it nice for a little bit. It's like literally the trains ran on time, which every German knows has never happened in Germany once. If there's anything trains in Germany don't do, it's arrive on time. If your train arrived on time, it's going to take you to the wrong stop, right? Germans, please let me know. I know you're out there listening. Don't worry, I'm going to stop dogging on you. You're just the only fascists that have ever existed in the American zeitgeist, so you're the only ones I can talk about. Italians getting off easy as per usual. Spanish, completely over their fucking heads. Just phalangist Spain just having succeeded being a fascist government for fucking decades, and everyone was cool with it. Like, what up, buddy? You want to come visit Barcelona? The true Spanish accent of a Spaniard is actually King Hank Hill. Well, are you a good Spaniard, or are you a phalangist or a dead man? Oh yeah, Roma. Sorry. Gypsy's not a slur here. It's just a fucking word. It does literally not even derogatory. People call themselves that, and it's not like that's their word. I literally never heard the word Roma in my fucking life until I guess the transatlantic cable for internet was laid in 2016, and then people started telling me. If I say it, I'm not trying to be rude. I just literally fucking forget. If it makes you all feel any better, the people that remind me the most are the ones that are culturally the most racist against the fucking Roma. Germany was Natsock, not fascist. Natsocks are fascists. Sorry. You can be both. What the fuck are you talking about? German here, he's right about the trains. Don't forget the phalangists in Lebanon. I actually read into that last night. I went against my better nature and gave two shits about a country the size of a fucking postage stamp, and I only found out how fucking goofy it was. Lebanon's government is fucked. I didn't realize it was that crazy. There are phalangists in Lebanon, and they are based on Spanish phalangists, but spelled different, which is the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. They are essentially fascist Catholics, right? But they're a PH. So they did the like early 2010s fat thing, but with fascism. And they went PH with it. So they're the PH phalangists instead of the Spanish phalangists, which is what I was thinking of. I remember people were like, oh, was he being racist to Lonerbox about it? Like, what are you talking about? I've never even heard of this shit. And the entire population of them in their fucking like essentially half non-existent country is only I think several tens of thousands or something, but they form one of the larger political parties of not they work with the Maronite Christians, but they're actually part of the Syriac Catholics, if I remember correctly. And all of these like political organizations go back like fucking 600 years. I was reading through all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, these Maronites took over the country after surviving a series of genocides or slaughters. I think they used to call them slaughters. There was a slaughter back in the day. A series of slaughters by like Emperor Fuckboy 2, Emperor Mehmet 2 of wherever the fuck. They came in and burned their monasteries. I'm like, what in the fuck? What is this fucking city of God bullshit? Like, y'all gotta get a new fucking. You gotta get a new conflict. This is so fucking outdone. Oh, it means so much to us. I know, but like, I would rather never hear of it and leave you to your lonesome. But unfortunately, for some reason, my country keeps getting dragged into it or dragging itself into it, like so many Leviathans on their way to Bethlehem. There's trains in the U.S. There are a few. Catholic fascists? Yeah, which is phalangists. Phalangists are Catholic fascists of their own variety in Spain, specifically. That's like Franco and all them. That was a whole thing with a very interesting type of Catholic fascism too. Very pro-Roman Catholicism with a secular disposition towards the Roman Catholic Church, a secular disposition towards papacy, because the Phalangists believed that Spanish Catholicism should be like Spanish. And I guess there's not a Borgia in Rome at the moment, so fuck that. Please recommend a book to read about the difference. If you're talking to me, no. Brooks, please, if you're here, book recommendations. I know people that think anarchy is the way to go, but leads straight to fascism, as you said. The issue with anarchism is that nobody does it. The issue with anarchism as a sort of parting thought to this entire segment is that anarchism has only ever been done right once, and it's by the anarchist you are immediately talking to in the moment you're having that conversation about anarchism. If there's two anarchists in a room and they agree with each other, the one that is going to gossip about the other anarchist when that one leaves the room is the one that's right about the anarchism. I'm talking to the people who said read a book. Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to like learn more about Franco. God. That's shit that I've known for like decades and just had to continuously fucking reread for years, and then you never know if you still know it. Fascalix? Fascalix? I like that. Tradcaths are kind of fascist, or at least they really want to promote the development of Catholic hegemonies. Yeah. They're theocratic fascists. I mean, really. Theocracies, I mean, fascism really does kind of develop from, more like from a type of socialism. There's a lot of crossover, really. So, like, theocratic fascism kind of just works. And you can reappend the definitions used to establish what is and isn't fascist to a lot of old fucking societies as well. But really, it does have to be more populist. Is one of the key tenets of fascism in my mind, and via my definitions of it, is that fascism does have to be specifically populist in its intent. It has to be for the people. Some types of religious movements can do that, depending sort of on how. Usually a religious movement that starts while being the non-dominant religion or a non-in-charge religion, you know, of an area that's like secular. The primary religion or a secondary but extremely fervent religion of a popular area can achieve a theocratic sort of fascism, but really it's always going to be fascism at the end, but they're just going to have a cross, you know what I mean, instead of a crooked cross. Psychological Structure of Fascism from Georges Bataille is one of my favorites. Mass Psychology of Fascism from Wilhelm Reich is better. I just have to defer to Umberto Eco's Fascism. I went over that a while ago. I don't think it's a bad place to start, but I think Fascism is extremely lacking in its ability to define fascism in a predictive manner or a preventative manner. It is one of those things where, like, at a certain point, you stop describing merely fascism and just any government you don't like. You know what I mean? You can very easily delve into the everything I hate is fascism type shit, like, you know, the Vosh special, basically. Without getting into it and reopening the entire thing, my issues with Umberto Eco's fascism is that he appends a lot of things that are kind of standard functions to like almost any government that would ever possibly exist to it. And really, without getting it, because I'd have to pull it up, otherwise I don't want people to having to complain about like what specific tenet of it are you upset with. Generally, my criticism of fascism is it was clearly put together by somebody who had lingering trauma from the from World War II and the fascist occupation of Italy. I don't know how to say that right, but it does feel like an occupation when he talks about it. The sort of fascist occupation of Italy until the end of fascism there. His dislike of things that would be specific to a wartime, immediately post-revolutionary fascist society colors his criticism of it with things that would be endemic to sort of any post-revolutionary wartime society. It's kind of the issue. So there's a few things where I'm like, maybe not. Other parts of it are a little bit too wishy-washy to the point where it's like this could be, you know, indicative of anything or nothing. Some of the parts of it feel a little self-contradictory, and some of them feel repeated. Not that it's bad and like you shouldn't look at it. Just understand that I think even Umberto Eco said it was kind of not supposed to be like the final defining characteristics of fascism, and other people who talk about it extensively, more so than I do, probably will give you considerably better critiques on it that actually have a bunch of the historicity attached to it so that you can kind of understand the context in which his fascism was developed when he wrote it a long time after the end of, you know, World War II and the fall of the El Capo regime, or however you're supposed to say that. But basically, I think some of the issues with it also are that fascism as a thing people attempt has evolved as well. It is like any political system, people that are trying to engage in it will sort of sew up the issues that came before. You can see this kind of across the world in other like legitimate fascist attempts at fascism and at fascist governments. The early to mid 19th or 20th century original fascists did paramilitary or military dictatorships. And so post-revolutionary fascists and sort of generally the kind of fascists that came up at that era tended to be extremely military junta, walk around in a uniform, kind of express their existence as like the head of the military and a person that's in the military as well. And now as we get into the 21st century and have moved away from that aesthetic of fascism and that identifying characteristic that people found very, very important to identifying fascism, going all the way up until fucking Muammar Gaddafi bought it in that pipe, has fallen by the wayside. So you have like Vladimir Putin, who is still ostensibly very military-ish and very clearly a fascist and a fascist head of state. He's not going around in a military uniform all the time. You know what I mean? Decked out, wearing combat fatigues, that sort of thing. Xi Jinping has moved away from the Maoist singular dress uniform. He doesn't do any of that sort of military stuff. Other fascist enterprises, post fucking Spanish, I think Spain still has fascist, right? I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. You know, it's more suit and tie now, kind of in a general sense. Even our American fascists, like literally, like I am literally a fascist that want fascism. They wear plaid shirts and blue jeans more than anything else. And these, I'm not trying to tell you that this is the entirety of it, but just understand that what is represented in these alteration of the aesthetics of fascism is itself a mark that fascism can evolve while still trying to achieve the same ends and not in any way, shape, or form altering how it comes about in a strictly predictive and holistic sense. There's always going to be subtleties. There's always going to be slight alterations in the plan. You know, nothing's ever perfectly what it's supposed to be definitionally when it comes to organizations that control countries. But just understand that fascism moves on. You know what I mean? It's going to change. It will be different, and it will describe itself differently, but it will be what it is. And it will try to achieve the ends that it goes for, because ultimately it will have the primary the operative. Primarily, it will always have the same operative characteristics at the heart of it, the same engine running it. But if you get distracted by the artifice that's up top, you know, how things are talked about, how things are argued, the sort of language and the niceties that are used to massage the negative aspects of it, you can get tricked into thinking you're seeing something that you're not, because it has a slightly different set of surface characteristics, when really at the bottom what you are seeing is establishment of an in-group and an out-group, establishing the out-group as a moral peril, and then establishing a further out-group beyond the bounds of the country as a permanent barbarian invader class that's trying to come into your country and kill everybody, so you have to perpetually remain at war and conflict and all this sort of stuff, and establishing a primary sort of essentialist version of a folk, that whole deal. Red Bandit, what up? Their king stopped a Neo-Franco coup in 81. That is not far back enough. The CCP leaders still have a uniform they wear, the same Asian-style suit, and the type Ping wears. The rest can't. It's reserved for him. Still, see? The change is really just more of the same. Like, that's kind of it. So it's just like literally we're adapting to the impression that fascism gives. Very cool. Spain is actually predominantly socialists. That's why they're poor. Oh, sorry, I'm just messing around. Lolcal Tyler takes fellow Lolcal what if altist seriously. I think you could say somebody's dumb. This is something I'm starting to kind of come to unfortunate terms with. It is what it is. And it's something I already knew, but I'm going to have to start operating based on this idea a little bit more going forward, I think, is that while I do love shit talking, and I'm never going to stop engaging in it, especially because I can't, because I love it too much, I think that there is something to be gained in understanding longevity and growth in certain, what you would, if you see a system that builds itself up and everything about your ideological understanding of the system says in your mind that it should be disintegrating, but it's not, then there's either an issue with your ability to perceive what is happening with the system, or there's something in your inherent ideology that is unable to describe it. So you're either not seeing what you're seeing, or you're not able to understand what you're seeing. I think in the case of like somebody like what if Altist, in my mind, just making fun of him at the beginning made sense, because first off, content brain, and you know, I am a fallible, money-hungry sociopath. There's something deeper there that's not inherently predictable. Obviously, what if Altist is a suit? Obviously, what if Altist is if not like an actual fucking fascist of some sort, maybe like so adjacent to it, but it doesn't really fucking matter. I don't even think that's very predictive given what he's talked about. But his ability to maintain and grow a community of people that do not seem directly desirous of his downfall, that aren't collecting together in order to just perceive the destruction of somebody, right? They're not just there because what if Altist is a lolcow. There is something that they are saying, that he is saying to them, that is gripping, which is kind of crazy, right? But also, and I have to give it to him, he is right that he is not saying all of the same things that your typical grifter class grifter is. he makes similar points. He seems to derive some of his statements from similar first principles, but whereas the quartering is a sort of predictive non-entity grifter, someone has to be there to signal boost bigotry. That's what the quartering does. The quartering is a signal booster to pre-existing concepts. The quartering is not valued for his ability to see, parse, and then explain situations in a way that might challenge any preconceived notion of how the situation should be explained. That is not the quartering's value to his community. But for some reason with What If Altist, it is. Short Fat Itaku, who's also got a lot of puts off a lot of sood radiation, apparently has the same sort of relationship with his audience. This sort of consistent and constant conflict with them telling him, like, we like you because you are a fucking fascist, you're righty, you're conservative, you're about all of these things that we're about. And then he responds to them, even though from my perspective, he agrees with them 100%, he seems to respond even to his own audience, no, I'm not like that. I'm not saying that this is like indicative of the possibility that there's some sort of hand out there in the darkness that I need to reach out and grab hold of and build a bridge with. But to me specifically as an individual, there's something in that delusion that is profoundly interesting to me. Or not in the delusion necessarily, but in that something in that broken algebra that is either a delusion on the part of the speaker or on their audience that makes me want to know more about what exactly they're going after. Because for anybody else, you would say, oh, well, of course, grifter, right? I'm saying things that I don't believe in order to trick you. In this case, they're saying things that they wholeheartedly, and in certain cases, especially with What If Altist, I believe, concretely believe and have arrived at from first principles, and yet are not congruent with the beliefs of the people that they are speaking with. Even if you're just going to delve into it and find something in that broken algebra that's a way to like break down the arguments that they like about themselves, you're going to find like a sort of stopgap in their own internal narrative. That's valuable. Maybe if there is some sort of friendship to be gained, or at least acquaintanceship in the terms of we can talk this out and maybe I can make you sound less stupid, also valuable. You know what I'm saying? I think also individuals like that sort of constantly describe themselves as being more centrist than I think they are, at least in my opinion. A lot of times when they... Tyler's going down the pipeline live. Yeah. A lot of times when they talk about stuff like that, those individuals are more apt to give you a good criticism of the messaging, if not the actual operations, the messaging of your side of things, because they might be stuck in place, you know what I mean? Good old alt-right pipeline playbook. They might be stuck in place by something that they perceive as being unattractive and in the way of them moving further left. And so that can be a good way to find stuff out like that too. I'm just kind of speaking from... I will get back to these. These are all me talking from first principles again and again and again, over and over and over. I'm never going to fucking talk to you guys and be like, hey, I'm just going to start fucking agreeing with you for money. I can't do it because I can't keep track of it. The brain damage prevents me from remembering all of that shit. So unfortunately, there's no fucking benefit into me lying. It's only a fucking deficit. So even from an amoral standpoint, understand I'm not going to engage in it. See, that's why I got frustrated at Tyler for... What are you saying? What are you butthurt about me for? Jesus. That's why I got frustrated with Tyler for seemingly comparing socialism and fascism. I acknowledge I may have misinterpreted it, though. You can compare anything. Socialism doesn't necessarily mean social services. Social safety nets are an aspect of socialism, but if socialism progresses to the perfect end state of communism, you won't have social services because you wouldn't need them. I don't know how the fuck you make that actually happen. But like that's another thing. Like if you don't need, that's the thing with socialism. If it doesn't actually provide it, you wouldn't even have it. You know what I mean? Like if there's another version of socialism that empowers the working class and allows them to maintain the fruits of their labor, you might not need social services because maybe the income is fixed, or maybe magic space communism happens and you can't be like harmed anymore. You know what I mean? I know that's going off into the fucking sci-fi territory, but that's to kind of push the point so far that you understand why I'm saying that. It might not be social services that accomplish the thing that you want, which is it might not be unions that get you there. Although those are stopgap measures basically to achieve the end state, and may be the only state that you can achieve because the end state is actually legitimately impossible and the holding state is within there. Those might not actually be the thing. So like the point of saying that is it would probably help you now immediately, obviously. And I'm still in my own mind, literally, if you guys have heard me call governments service districts again and again and again and again, you probably know where I stand on this thing. And if you are confused about that, you're being dumb. That's all I can tell you. But there might be the developments in a social society or a socialist society where something like a social service would not be necessary. It just wouldn't, or it might exist and it wouldn't be called that. You know what I'm saying? Regarding why isn't this disintegrating, I've always thought people are just very resilient. Things don't have to work well to hold together. Humans are little muck gremlins living in the swamp. Also true. Which is why I think more than likely there is never going to be like any end state communism. And it's not really something that's worth kind of like fighting for, considering it's, you know, trying to like, maybe we can all jump higher in a year, but I don't think we can jump to the moon. And I don't think we maybe necessarily need to in order to achieve the best state for humanity. Might not actually be communism. It might be something else. And in trying to achieve the best state for humanity is what we're supposed to be doing. That's like actual futurism. And if the best state isn't socialism, but some sort of magical capitalism where everything actually does work out the way that the capitalists say that it does in their sort of like mental dream state, then in that insane hypothetical, technically I would go with the other one, because I don't have a team in this, and you really shouldn't. That's kind of where the downfall comes, is you shouldn't have a team. You shouldn't say you're a socialist because you agree with socialism. You should say you're a socialist because you think socialism can do stuff for you. That's it. It's not like an agreeability. It's not like I think it's like the cool thing to do or anything like that. I want to fit in. Don't treat it like a social club. Treat it like something that needs to perform for you, or you abandon it. And understand that that's how other people are going to treat it as well if they're rational actors. So it has to continuously benefit them, or they will also throw it off. Your friends from the cool socialism might not actually be that cool, and they might be sociopathic fascists who are going to take advantage of the socialist precursor condition and the post-revolutionary action in order to seize control. And then all of a sudden, fuck, you're going to a camp. God damn it. Whoops. The only reason I'm saying it is because it's happened so many fucking times. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching Westside Tyler Live.
Hope you enjoyed your time on the West Side.